And we're going to kick it off with Wiebren, who's very keen to go. And I'm going to give you a full introduction though, because we've got speakers from very esteemed speakers. We are, people at the forefront of green IT. People are really sort of blazing a trail from ABN AMRO, from Rabobank, and from Accenture. So that's pretty good, isn't it? Yeah, we got some big hitters. And we're going to start off with Wiebren van der Zee, a very nice chap from ABN AMRO. Wiebren started at Maze Pearson Bank, didn't you, in 1998. The organisation then turned into Fortis Bank and then ABN AMRO, and where you've been a pioneer in introducing the concept of sustainability within IT. And you're now, to get this right, sustainability lead of IT at ABN AMRO, yeah? Yep. And his other green credentials include being board member of sustainableIT.org. Maybe you're going to tell us more about that. Sure. And the, see if I get this right, Nationale Coalitie Duurzame Digitalisering. Yeah. How was that? Dankjewel. Spreek ook een beetje Nederlands. Yeah. That was it. That was it. That was my name. Is everybody Dutch here? Who's not Dutch? Who's not a Dutch speaker? Okay, great. So we have to do it in English. Oh, damn. You speak Dutch? No, good. Do you speak Dutch? No. No, good. Sorry, Wiebren.
I expected so much. Yeah.
But it translates as the National Coalition of Sustainable Digitalization. Would that be about right? Something like that, yeah. And Wiebren's going to tell us about the importance of green IT and give us a hands-on approach from awareness to action. Please can I have a warm welcome for Wiebren van der Zee. Thank you. I'm going to go sit here.
Yeah, good afternoon. I don't have to say my name anymore, that's quite clear. So. Let me see if this works. I guess I'll give it another go. Here we go. Well, you've seen that by now. So, two sections in the presentation. So I'll talk about what we have been doing and are doing within ABN AMRO. ABN AMRO, a Dutch bank, but I'm quite sure most of you are familiar with it. And the second section is about a personal view on the developments nowadays. I call it the S3. I'll come to that at the final section or the later section. So I think you've introduced me quite well, Adam, so thanks for that. And then I'll shortly touch on the why, but I'm quite sure we all know it. You talked about climate change and recycling already. So we're crossing tipping points and creating risks, right, for all of us, for the whole society. So that's not good. We're using more and more energy, we're creating more and more CO2 emissions, and that energy was even before AI kicked in, and we're generating more and more e-waste. So all kinds of developments that are worrying from an environmental perspective. This transfers also for the bank into a regulatory landscape that is expanding on sustainability. So on the commercial side of the bank, we're seeing more and more legislation we have to adhere to or we have to report to. You also created a climate strategy, I'll come to that in a moment. But on a sector level, the ECB is stepping in, wanting to know our climate risks. On the national level, we see national legislation kicking in, asking energy reductions or creating tactics and plans, and we have to report on the European level. And I know we're getting a little bit of ease there via Omnibus, although we are still in the scope, so we have to see how big that ease is for us. And that's only reporting. I mean, that's only the compliance side of it. There's also an intrinsic side to it, and I think you just want to do. So that wanting to do is also built into our purpose and strategy. So what you see here is ABN AMRO's purpose and strategy already for the last couple of years. So purpose, well, you can read it, but we want to be a better bank for the generations to come, building a future-proof bank, and we consider ourselves to be part of that. Reinventing the customer journey and supporting also our customers into their sustainability challenges and journeys. With the call to action you see there leaves no unclarity. I'll come back to the climate strategy, but we consider also ourselves in scope for our IT operations. So our climate strategy talks about taking responsibility, moving to net zero and reducing energy consumption. You can find this all in our corporate reporting. And we consider this, that, like I said just now, IT is subject to all of this. But we do have categorized, so we split out into 3 categories. We call it the IT footprint, where we are responsible as a sustainable IT department. The IT handprint, what we do on the commercial side of the bank for sustainable finance, so what do we want to fund and what no longer, taking into account sustainability risks and criteria. So we're being more strict on our clients and customers. Here we want to be strict on ourselves, and then we also have our IT for society, where we have social programs where we help people with distance to labor market or getting up to speed into IT. We call that the Coding Buddy program, but we also have a program together with Microsoft we call Reboot. So 3 different elements. Nicked these 3 categories from a book by Nicholas Sundberg called Sustainable IT Playbook. But we started before that, to be honest, before his book came out, and we started assessing the materiality of IT. Because when we set off about 5 years ago, it was not clear to everybody that the footprint of IT was material, was significant, was, let's say, something important to look at. And so together with a company here from Amsterdam called EcoChain, we did lifecycle analysis on our IT landscape, on our IT estate. The estate ranging from, let's say, the workplace assets we all have, the digital workplace, the laptops and screens and everything we use, times 23,000 in our case, because we have 23,000 people, roughly, give or take. The back end of IT, so everything that happens in IaaS, PaaS, SaaS typically, and in our own data centers or somebody else's data centers, constituting our whole go-to-market and all our products and services via the different channels into the FSI. And then our operating model, because we have 8,000 people working in IT, again, roughly, give or take a few, and they work in the Netherlands, Eastern Europe, and in India. And they either work in ops or in DevOps, and they have a whole set of tools that they can leverage. Tools that again are part of our landscape and also have an impact and a footprint, obviously. The developer tools, and then we put it all into perspective for the total operation of the bank, making the materiality assessment and showing our senior management and C-level that the footprint of IT was significant and was material. And this was before, let's say, the CSRD kicked in that made us do that in a more official approach. Then talking about IT strategy, 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago, in our latest reorganization, our IT management came up with a new IT strategy, as they do every now and then, every few years or so. You see it on the right. It contains multiple elements, 7 to be precise, 7 pillars as we call them. It talks about composability of software and all kinds of, and attracting talent pools and of people and these kind of things, but also in the red box, obviously, sustainable IT. So we're actually part of the IT strategy, which was a novum at that stage, novelty, that a topic like this could be at that level. And then we also got, at the same moment in time, we got our own department called, we're not that original with names, so Sustainable IT. Part of the CIO office, reporting to all our 3 CIOs. We have 3 CIOs, and alongside also a CTO, and a CISO, and all the other, and also a CSO. And they all report into our CITO, which is executive board level. So reporting or working along with, up until very recently, Robert Zwaak, CEO, and as of beginning of this month, Margarita Bernard, I think her name is. I still have to get used to the name a little bit, but our new CEO. So at least more important, we got an official place in the organization. We got an official pillar in the IT strategy. So we were there to stay. And how do we work? So our sustainable IT team does a few things. So we help define the targets. So I'll come to that in a later slide. I actually come to, this will be the basis for the next couple of slides, but just to take you around how we work, is that we align on the targets together with our senior management, together also with our group sustainability office. Then we do research. So we look at what are tools, protocols, frameworks that we can leverage, that we need to know of as subject matter experts, that we can use for our work. We do dashboarding. So from that insight, we collect data, we put it in our sustainable IT dashboard. I'll show you in a minute. And we provide management information if you aggregate it all up. But we also provide detailed information if you drill down to the team level and the individual application level. Of course, knowing how much it is, very interesting, but you want to influence it. So we also have a toolbox where we collect all kinds of tactics and interventions, how to make your IT greener or reduce your impact. Okay, you know where you are, you know what to do. Then you also have to enable your people, right? So we have an educational program. Come to that. You have to also embed it into your processes, right? Because IT is full of processes. Used to be ETL processes, can now be other kinds of processes, or IT for IT, or whatever process set you choose. But you have to embed it in those processes to make it really stick into your way of working. And then reporting, a bit different from dashboarding, so certain elements or figures and metric from our dashboard we put into the official reporting, into management reporting, or also into CSRD reporting. And then governance, last but not least, I think a lot of IT job descriptions don't contain any official responsibilities on sustainable IT. So if you're a developer, there's no task description about green coding. If you're an architect, there's no task description about solutioning for sustainability or design by sustainability by design. So we also want to embed it into the official, you could say, HR side of things. I'll start on the zero, work through the whole circle again. Our targets, renewed beginning of this year, are maybe a bit difficult to understand. Well, no, I'm not sure. Maybe I should not say that. Maybe they're very easy to understand. But we have two targets. And why, and maybe I should go to this to explain a little bit better, is that our group sustainability, coming from the ABN AMRO corporate plan, climate plan, talks about being net zero in 2030. And we had a look at the scoping and also their way of measuring that, and we say, well, you're measuring in a market-based fashion, so you take into account renewable energy contracts and maybe even offsetting for the last bits, qualitative offsetting in that case, like carbon capture. But you're also descoping a lot of scope 3. And this was due to a harmonization on a banking level called Net Zero Banking Alliance. Maybe too much detail for now, but in our corporate plan for the targets, there was a lot of scope 3 not in scope. We disagreed, and we said, well, hold on, IT is full of scope 3. So we cannot leave that out of the equation or out of the targets. But we do understand that the horizon and the challenge will get bigger, and the horizon will also get bigger. So we agreed on aligning on those corporate targets with that limited scope and on a market-based approach. But we also set and agreed upon a stretched, extended ambition towards 2050 with the full scope 1, 2, and 3 of the GIZ protocol, and also measuring it on a location-based fashion. So both are now being measured. Both are now part of our, well, this year we have an OKR, so a bit different than long year targets. We have a 1 year OKR, objective key result. where this is really management steering information going into our senior management, where both these targets or their respective drop that we want to achieve are part of the ambitions for this year. On the left, you also see the strategic KPIs that were designed are all to do at this moment about energy use. So limiting energy use of our digital workplace, that also goes well and needs to go well with our Paris proofing of the buildings, which means that there's limits in energy use of those buildings, so also limits in energy use of the equipment in that building, also the IT equipment. So strategic KPIs on energy use and the OKR on the carbon emissions and the long year target and ambition for the moving towards net zero. Talked a little bit about the research we did in what kind of protocols, frameworks are out there that we want to leverage. We also contributed a little bit with some research we did that we published, talking about a sustainability rating that we use, the S3 model that I come to next, and the sustainability impact assessment that I also come to in a few slides. Second on the circle was the dashboarding. So this is a real life view on one of the elements of the dashboard. On the right is more the conceptual drawing of a few years back. But like I explained just now, in the dashboard we captured our full IT estate landscape, on-premise and off-premise, and we aggregate it all up to see if we're working towards our targets as management information and also for the CSRD, and we drill down for the product owners and the DevOps teams involved to understand where their specific application sits in our landscape, or how what the trend is with that application in terms of energy use or carbon emissions. We started off with cloud carbon footprint software, which is open source. We now combined it also with platform native data coming off Azure, but Azure has limited transparency, I would say, for certain very desirable metric are not exposed, let's say kilowatt hours for that matter. And we have internal data sources also, obviously from our own data centers and our own platforms. And some external sources, electricity maps and LCA or PCF information from different sources. Then the toolbox I talked about, so we gather tactics into our toolbox coming from either research and coalitions we're part of, like indeed that difficult word, Adam, Coalition on Duurzame Digitalisering, or with our collaboration with the VU University, with Patricia Lago, professor over here on sustainable software, or some other sources that we are in contact with. On the top, the book of Nicholas I already talked about, but also sustainableIT.org that you also talked about, where we are a member of, and we also fetch best practices and tactics. Green Software Foundation, so CNCF, so all kinds of places where we look either a member of, or we pay attention what's happening and what can we learn and use coming from those places. Of course, we also have our own IT ecosystem. We work with big partners like TCS, Infosys, all big tech providers, so we also want to learn and get info from them. And last but not least, from our own people. So 8,000 people working, they all have ideas of what to do or not to do or how to improve. So we gather that into our repository or toolbox. An awareness and training program, so internal initiatives we done over the past years was workshops, how to reduce your personal footprint, how to reduce your application footprint, grid boostings, energy challenges, even a hackathon we did. We have an academy track, learning platform within the bank, and recently we have initiated for this year the We Green IT program, where all 8,000 people will undergo a educational and how do you call it, course to give them help on what data is there from the dashboard, what tools are there from the toolbox. So this is compulsory. Last year we also had a compulsory what was around awareness. Now it's more about really doing the training, and we participate in, well, I think we talked about it, the NCDD and the sustainableIT.org in different work groups that are ongoing. We also want to go to meetups on sustainable IT and where we can. So 5 to 7 on the roundabout, I put all on one slide because I also have another topic. Before I go there though, I talked about the embedding it into the IT hierarchy, so into the official roles and responsibilities, the IT processes, and we need to track our progress towards our targets, not only because we committed to those targets, it's also because we have to be transparent, and controllers and auditors are starting to verify. Also because 2 years ago we were able to get the ISO 14001 certificate because we are also, because of all the things we do on IT, so our ISO certificate is includes our IT operation. Next, talked about it briefly, is something we worked on together with the NCDD, is the Sustainability Impact Assessment. So instead of determining afterwards how big is the footprint of this IT change or this IT solution, we want to know that upfront. So already when the change is designed or the tools are selected or the hardware is selected, that can also be AI, we want to understand the impact that it will bring, understand the delta that it will bring to our landscape, to understand if there's a fit with the trajectory I just showed you in our targets. So is this IT change bringing us towards our targets, or is it steering us away from our targets? So we want to be data driven also in the change that's coming towards our landscape and our estate. Then next door, and just now we had a lot of talk about AI. Also here just talked about it, obviously. So there's, and I'm quite sure a lot of you are aware, AI is there, AI is here to stay. But again, with AI, I think we're lacking a lot of impact data. So we're getting the technology, lured into the technology, but we're lacking a lot of impact data around that technology. So how much energy has it been using? How much carbon is emitted when I'm using it? How much water maybe is being used? So then again, there can also be second order effects of that AI used somewhere else in your ecosystem or in your estate. So maybe you use AI here with an uplift in the footprint, but somewhere else something's going down or it has a positive impact. So you have to look at the whole system to understand if the net effect is either positive or negative. And at this moment in time, you also want to be careful not to throw away, I guess, a potential solution too fast. By the way, we'll never throw it away because, like I said, it's here to stay. But you have to make, let's say, good judgment calls via guardrails and conscious trade-offs and decision making that you understand if I apply AI here, it'll have across the board either negative or positive net effect. And therefore, it fits with my sustainability targets and commitments, yes or no. So I think that we're at this moment in time where, for sure, we need more and better data on Gen AI, but we also need to trade off and make those decisions in a structured and data-driven way. Then a new slide that I put in yesterday, but work we are doing with the VU University is to really embed sustainability in the design, so in the architecture practice. Indeed, shifting left, like we just heard in the plenary session, and making sustainability part of all the architecture steps that have been there, or in the DevOps dialogue that continues after architecture, when the solution is defined. But there's also always a loop back into architecture. So this will be published by Marcus, a PhD in our team, who's been working on this governance, and we'll share it via different platforms. Then wrapping up sustainable IT at ABN AMRO. So starting 5 years ago with a position paper, getting awareness of management, getting sponsorship of management. We also started off on some internal IT targets that were never exposed to the outside world. The climate strategy of ABN AMRO, we needed to realign on that strategy. But we did get a pillar in the IT strategy like that I showed. We did get an official team in the IT organization that I showed. We were ISO 14001 certified, also giving a stick behind the door. That all helped in us preparing for the CSRD. We did re-baseline last year, and this year we got new targets, but they are taken now very seriously because they are targets coming from the highest level. You can see it now, the cascading goes really smoothly because also mid-level management and developers and everybody in our organization knows that they are supported by senior management. Whereas before it was more maybe as a seen as a nice to have. Now it is a must have and must do. Yeah. I'll stop here for sustainable IT at ABN AMRO, but there'll be a panel and I'll be here the rest of the day. So come to me for questions. But looking at time, how much more time do I have? Does anybody know?
We've got a couple of minutes, but we can also take a question now if anyone's got a question, or you can.
Got a few more slides on a few outside of ABN AMRO because the world's turmoil at the moment. So things are happening, and I think a lot of these things we also saw passing by in the plenary session. So cybersecurity, heavy burden by now, although we did get an average score on, I think, on the statistics just now as a FSI. But it's important, obviously, for FSI to be top-notch on your security. Your money has to be safe, right? But mastering our own destiny, IT destiny, is also a challenge by now. We're seeing what happens in the world and how sometimes IT is, let's say, used, weaponized, as they call it sometimes, right? Or being vulnerable because somebody can take our IT equipment, services, then typically away from us. And meanwhile, the world's warming up, sometimes very pleasant for one day, or for if you're in a country like the Netherlands, which is not always warm, but nevertheless, on a global scale, it's a big concern. So we have challenges for our societies, and IT has a responsibility, right, to help and help in the solutions. So with all those risks, our legislation is also not standing still, so we're getting a lot of legislation on top of us, coming typically from Brussels, and then in a second order effect, they're being translated in local regulations. And this is not nearly all, just selected a few of the legislations, acts, as they call them, coming from Brussels. But we will have to take them into account, so there's more non-functionals coming. That's basically it. And our business IT dialogue will have to capture those. So we want to stick to our, I think, values and rights and principles within Europe, and we want to aim for a foundation that we can control. Did you know we have actually digital rights and principles officialized in the EU, right? So these are officialized in 2022, so talking about all the rights we have and all the principles that apply in the EU. One of those 6 is sustainability. You can read it yourself, obviously. And then on the right, we see all kinds of initiatives to build that other foundation, to build that Euro stack, or that Gaia X was there for a long time. Nowadays, a lot of talk about AI factories, but to create your autonomy, or strategic autonomy, is, I think, a better word, sovereignty, where it's needed, to stay in control, to stay master of your own destiny, IT destiny. So that brings me to trade-offs and synergies. 2 more slides after this one. So now we have different non-functional. So can we be sustainable but not have any privacy, right? Do we need to trade them off or not? Can we be sustainable but not secure, or sustainable but not competitive? I think also a big topic over the last half a year or so with the Draghi report. Obviously, we don't want to trade them off really. We want all, right? So we need to kind of balance them and find synergies between them. So we need to come to quality attributes and to capabilities that will aid on all these things. So we want to be able to go where the impact is lower. We want to be able to go where security is better. We want to be able to go where we are in control. And for that, a lot of these typical quality criteria will help and are really necessities why you always see them back in those general platforms. And then two more slides. So the way I depict this is that, so over the past 15, 20 years or so, we've been lured a lot into the verticals, right? Internet started as a proliferated, decentralized vehicle. But slowly but surely, big tech got their hands on the internet and we've been lured into a lot of verticals. We now call hyperscalers or big tech. Nobody ever talks about separation of those big techs. Only the Americans talk about it when they separate TikTok out or Google. They dare to cut, right? Because it's their legislation, their companies often, although if it's not like TikTok, they are concerned also about privacy and data. So for once they're on the wrong end of the stick. So separation, we don't dare to talk about it. We get into conflict with the Americans and they step out of NATO. But then we get the federated options like the GAIA-X or the Eurostack or the other federated possibilities or initiatives, I should say, out there. Talking about AI factories, but if we can create big hyperscale-like data centers that are going to be our AI factories, they're again going to be vulnerable in terms of, let's say, or in times of conflict, because that's where all your logic is. So shouldn't we be thinking about more AI meshes? So it's again distributed out into the world instead of 10 places in Europe where you know where to find them. So thinking horizontally, more common, the common ground initiatives and the common philosophies is a much more resilient approach. By the way, it's also much more dispersed, which is more better fit with our localized energy production also. So maybe we should change it, right? So, and this guy always said smart things 100 years ago, but maybe we should rethink the system. So this is my thinking about that also, and that we have to maybe shift 90 degrees and add something to it. The red doesn't have to go, but we should definitely add a different flavor to the world we live in. And that brings me to my last slide, which is a model I published some time ago. Big, but you see the three different elements of security, sustainability, and sovereignty coming back on the right. They are grounded, you could say, they're grounded actually in, let's say, how we want to live together, right? So in ethics and human and digital rights. But they're also then related to the legislation that either we have in the Netherlands or in Europe, US and China, and all the others have their own respective legislation. But all this legislation will work its way back into our IT way of working, right? So in the business IT dialogues we have over here, and in the functionality or capabilities that business needs. And our internal auditors and controllers will start to verify for that. They have to. It's legislation, right? And it has to work its way into the IT architectures of the world and the developments of the world, while selecting the palette, it's a bit of a painter, the different colors, different flavors of IT that we can work with. And then of course Gen AI is there, or AGI, but we have many more flavors that we typically use. So, and then there's the whole supply chain, and you can work that also out into a more expressive, more comprehensive model. But the message is, for now, is that from the old days, I think, where it was a business IT dialogue, it's much more a business IT and society dialogue nowadays that we have to accommodate. And so that's putting sustainability again in even a bigger picture. And that was my final slide. Well, moving to Pepijn.
Just like this.
Yeah.
Big applause. Thanks very much, Wiebren.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing all your. And keep fighting the good fight at ABN AMRO.
We'll try to.
Yeah, hope you join us later. So I'm sure you got questions for Wiebren, but we haven't got time. We're going to join later when we have our panel discussion.